It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to the second in our series that Mizrahi has initiated in partnership with the HaChevra LeCheker HaMikra, which are doing so much. My friend Israel Cristal and all of those board members of the Chevra, which are doing so much to further the dissemination of the writings of Rabbi Sacks in Hebrew in Israel. The Israeli-speaking world has discovered Rabbi Sacks in recent years with the translation of his books. And we at World Mizrahi are absolutely privileged to partner together with the HaChevra LeCheker HaMikra to present this Rabbi Sacks series, Lilu Nishmato, and to spread the towering and deep teachings of Rabbi Sacks far and wide. The subject, of course, of this series is To Heal a Fractured World, taken from the writings of Rabbi Sacks. And we began last week with Rabbi Dr. Ari Berman, the president of Yeshiva University, who launched the series for us. And we're very, very privileged this week to be joined and have the shir given by Sivan, Rahav, Meir, who will be giving the lecture today. We are privileged at World Mizrahi that Sivan and her husband, Yedidya Meir, together embarked a number of years ago to the United States to be our World Mizrahi Shlichim, and were hosted by tens and tens of communities across the United States and made such an impact in bridging the gap between American Jewry and Israel Jewry. And Sivan herself is a very well-known household name in Israel, a media personality, an educator, well-known across the Jewish world in all circles, of one who is a great articulator, not only of issues facing the Jewish and political world, but also of deep Jewish Torah values, which she has the ability to bring to vast and diverse communities, not only in Israel, but also in the last number of years in English to many communities around the world. Her WhatsApp groups are translated into so many different languages, reaching so many different populations. And we are privileged that it's Sivan who has joined us today on the topic of 3 meetings with Rabbi Sacks, which sounds absolutely interesting and inspiring, and we'll hear about them. Sivan was also asked to write a letter of introduction, a recommendation introduction to one of Rabbi Sacks's books, which I'm sure she'll mention. And it is a real privilege for us at Mizrahi and the HaChevra LeCheker HaMikra to have Sivan Rav Meir delivering this address. Thank you so much, Sivan, always for your time and your partnership. And we look so forward to hearing these riveting encounters with Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks. Ladies and gentlemen, Sivan Rahav Meir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doron, Perez. Thank you very much. And for me, it's not just a privilege. I mean, I feel privileged. It is zchut in Hebrew. I also think it's our responsibility to mention, to try to live according to his legacy and to try to understand what are the messages he left for us, what are the missions he left for us, Rabbi Sacks. So thank you very much for that opportunity to think, to rethink about his legacy. And I really want to share, I think the title is 3 meetings. I met him many times, but maybe 3 lessons or 3 important meetings we had. I think, and once again, thank you, World Mizrahi Movement. Thank you, HaChevra LeCheker HaMikra from Israel. Thank you, Daniel Cohen from Mizrahi, helping me out with all the technical details here tonight. And thank you for joining us from all over the world. I'm an Israeli, so it doesn't bother me if the chat is yours, and you can definitely type your messages, tell us where you're from, and mention and tell us about your your relationship with Rabbi Sacks, and add more comments or questions while I'm speaking. It's okay. We have almost 100 people here from all over the world. So toda rabah, and thank you from Yerushalayim. I know how much you miss Yerushalayim. For 2 years, the gates are locked, and the bureaucracy is extremely. I know how hard it is for all of you, and I know how much you miss Israel. And sometimes it's impossible to come. Sometimes it's too hard to come. I disagree with that policy, but I want to just tell you, because I speak to you from Nachlaot, our house in Yerushalayim. And I know how much you miss Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim misses you too. Israel misses you, and we want to see you here. It's empty without you. The Machne Yehuda market, but also the Western Wall, the Kotel. Without you, our fellow Jews from all over the world, it's like the family is not. We're not here together. So thank you for joining us, even through Zoom. It means something to be together from Yerushalayim and discuss Rabbi Sacks' legacy. So I want to start by maybe telling a little bit about myself, and how I first met Judaism at large. I mean, I grew up in the city of Herzliya, the center of Israel, Ramat HaSharon and Herzliya. I grew up in a very secular environment, very secular family. And that's why I called the first topic, the first maybe slogan, Impressive Judaism, because the real surprise through his writings, but also I met other Jews before I met the rabbi, the professor, or the Lord. The real surprise was, discovering Judaism is impressive. Judaism has something to say. Judaism belongs to the past, to the future, and to the present, and not only to the past. That was I was shocked. I was amazed to discover it has something to say about my personal life, and about the Jewish people, and about the whole world. Okay, and this treasure, this new. I'm a journalist, so this scoop was something really shocking. And I think I must explain, the background in order to understand why Judaism became impressive. Because until the age of 15, I never met someone who is religious. I was already a journalist. I started interviewing people here in Israel on Israeli TV at the age of, I would say, 6 or 7. It's Israel. The impossible, opportunities here in Israel. So definitely lots of flexibility. And at the age of 6 or 7, you can become a journalist, a reporter. And that's what I did, interviewing people. I interviewed Yitzhak Rabin. I interviewed Shimon Peres. I interviewed the Power Rangers. They came to Israel. This picture was taken when I was like maybe 12. It was the Dan Shilon show, the primetime show on Israeli TV. And I was there interviewing Rabin. And for me, it was like, I thought I know everything. I'm famous as a young girl. I must explain, sunflowers were very trendy back then, okay, that summer. Just want to explain the photo you see. But for me, that was, I would say, I was completely sure I know everything about Israel and the Jewish world. And, I was convinced my ideology, my narrative, it's not a narrative, it's the truth, okay? I supported Oslo agreements. I was part of Meretz youth movement. In Hebrew, we call it Noar Meretz. It is still an active party in Israel, belongs to the left wing. And for me, it was like, living the dream. Everything I did was the right thing to do. I want to show you just a short video, an interview with Shimon Peres in the 90s. We all thought, basically final redemption will arrive soon because of those peace agreements. I was completely, as I say, secular, and what we call in Hebrew smolani. I belong to the left, and that was, for me, that was everything. Let's just see. I want you to understand the concept that I would say the period, the decade I described, the 90s, me as a young girl, and Shimon Peres of blessed memory. He was the former minister back then, foreign minister. Let's see.
ילדים פלסטינים בגילנו, קיללו חיילים, זרקו אבנים. אתה יכול להבין את השנאה הזאת?
אבות אכלו בוסר, שני בנים תקהנה. הם לא אשמים. הם ספגו את זה בבית, לצערי הרב, ואני מקווה שהילדים שלהם ינשמו אווירה אחרת. זה מצער אותי מאוד.
זמרי פופ שרים למען השלום, מקדישים לו מיצירותיהם. אתה חושב שיש לכך השפעה שמוזיקה בעצם יכולה לשנות?
בהחלט כן. אני ראיתי אנשים שפוחים כשהם שומעים שיר. הרבה מאוד מקרים. יש הרבה מאוד אנשים עם רגש עמוק.
כן, רציתי רק לשאול אם אתה שומע מוזיקה עכשווית, אתניקס, זקני צפת?
האמת היא שאני חוטא בכולם. כשאני נוסע בדרך, בלילה, אני לא יכול לקרוא, אני מאוד אוהב לשמוע מוזיקה. יותר משאני מבחין בין מוזיקה קלאסית למוזיקה מודרנית, אני מבחין בין מוזיקה טובה באוזניי למוזיקה לא טובה.
מר פרס, אני כתבת צעירה של השבועון כולנו. כשהיית בגילי, גם אתה היית כתב צעיר של העיתון במעלה. רציתי לשאול אם יש לך טיפים, עצות לכתבת צעירה כמוני.
בהחלט כן, אני חושב שאנשים שוכחים מהר את החוויות שלהם. הם זוכרים יותר טוב את האירועים ופחות את החוויות. אני מאוד ממליץ לכתוב לא רק באופן יבש על אירועים, אלא גם באופן, אפשר להגיד, רטוב, גם על החוויות.
Okay. So, as you see, I'm Paris fan, okay? I admire him and I support him, and that was me. And I was convinced, everything I do, everything we do is progressive, intellectual. It means something. And the other side, they're primitive, okay? They have nothing to say. They can't really, develop or move forward. Nothing moves there. It's primitive. It's old. It's all black and white. It's not colorful. It's not interesting. It's ancient. And it's, it belongs to the archive. In Yiddish, we say boydem. What is a boydem? You put things you don't need. Judaism belongs, to those areas. And okay, yeah, I'm a Jew, but it doesn't really mean something. We should be Israelis and global, pluralistic, values. They should lead us. And that's why I told you I was shocked to discover Judaism has something to tell me. It started at the age of 15 before I met Rabbi Sacks. By the way, things weren't translated into Hebrew. It's really important. If you want to affect, I know how translations are important today because, and I thank Hotzaat Magid Koren Publishers, Yoshua Miller, the head of the Miller family, the head of Koren, and the translator, Tzur Ehrlich. We should all thank him because it's great translation, great. And I think it is so important to translate Israeli Hebrew writers and not just English. Other, I'm sure there are intellectuals they write in Russian or French, and I know nothing about them. How important it is to have good translations. We must thank them for that. But before I read all those really great books, inspiring books, I met the Torah, the real thing. The first time I was invited to Shabbat, it was in the city of Beersheba, in the south of Israel. They invited me to come to see what Shabbat is all about. For me, it was a life-changing experience. I never met someone who keeps Shabbat. I mean, I had no idea what it is. And I felt for the first time, today, I know that the remedy, we should get it like the dose of Shabbat every 7 days. Our soul, our body, that's the right, prescription Hashem wrote, the real doctor. That's what we need. Now think about someone that after 15 years, for the first time, I got this remedy for the first time. My body and my soul, I had this, it's not just resting on Shabbat, it's holiness. I touched this holiness for the first time at the age of 15. Boom. That was like a nuclear weapon. That was really explosion. And Baruch Hashem, I fell in love with Shabbat. And I remember the first thing I met was the concept of Parashat HaShavua, the weekly portion we read every week. And I realized we have this mutual pulse. It's like a pulse, a Jewish mutual pulse, global one. I remember I asked the people in Beersheba, the people that hosted me for Shabbat, they were reading the parasha. Let's say it was Parashat Shmot. So I said, okay, so you read Parashat. Why do you choose this Shabbat? Why did you choose this parasha, and they say we don't choose. Everywhere in Egypt and Australia and Poland and Morocco, you read the same parasha. And years afterwards, I read a beautiful definition. Rabbi Sacks described. He said it's the first global network. It's the first, www, World Wide Web. It's the first social network, new media. Before we had Wi-Fi, internet, etc., we were all connected. We all scroll. Think about the word scroll in Hebrew, liglol. We also say in Hebrew, liglol, your feed, but you also scroll Sefer Torah. And every week we have the same homepage. The homepage this week is Parashat Roma. Last week, homepage, yesterday on Shabbat, the global Jewish homepage was Parashat Mishpatim. Think about it, it's really a brilliant concept. Really, you need a genius to connect us all. We do not have the same land. We don't live in the same country, but we have this, as I said, this network. And I fell in love with Shabbat and with our parasha. And when those books were translated into Hebrew, I also fell in love with them. And I really realized Judaism is meaningful, and Judaism has so much to say. And in a way, Rabbi Sacks, I think, spoke about inspiring our world, making us better people, better human being, a better wife, a better mother, a better Jewish, a better person. And it was really inspiring and uplifting. And I'm sure you're all aware, if you're here with us today, more than 150 people from all over the world. So you all know, you all cherish, and we all understand how impressive was his Judaism, And yeah, I think it means something today. Judaism should be impressive. And for me, that was, as someone who thought it's so primitive, for me, that was the first surprise, the first message. But I didn't meet him back then. I was an Israeli teenager, a young journalist, a young mother, and he was the rabbi, the Lord, the professor. And then I really met Rabbi Sacks for the first time. It was here in Yerushalayim. And the second message is, by the way, if you have any comments, that's the right time. You can type and everyone can see, and you can have like a direct message, PM, private message, just for me. Thank you very much for Shalom, Shelly from Croatia. Wow. Yeah, and he's part of your journey. Toda rabba. Thank you, Shelly. And yeah, we have people here from really, I see all over the world. Thank you very much. And the second message, the second meeting, real meeting with Rabbi Sacks, I think was in interviews and lectures he gave and panels and discussions we had together, because I started teaching Torah after years of covering Israeli politics as a journalist. You saw me earlier with Rabin. I was interviewing for decades, Israeli politicians and covering the Knesset, our parliament, and politics and demonstrations and wars sometimes, and military operations and elections. Yeah, we like it here in Israel. And I covered basically everything that was going on. And after you discover the Torah, I think you want to share it with others. It's not a private treasure. It belongs to to all of us. And I started teaching, not just learn, after years of learning. And Baruch Hashem, I got married to Yedidia. He's also a journalist, and we have 5 kids, Baruch Hashem. And I started teaching, writing, or having lectures, and it became, Baruch Hashem, wider. I think when you touch the truth, things expand in a way, even if you don't plan it. I didn't have a plan, but it just happened, more lectures and journeys to the States and Europe, and the Shlichut with Mizrahi movement. I will elaborate. I'll describe it later. But basically, and I was invited by Koran publishers. Rabbi Sacks just published a new book in Hebrew that was translated into Hebrew, and they asked me to interview him for Yediot Acharonot. I write there a weekly column, and I think it's the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Yerushalayim. Yeah, before COVID, before the world changed. And I think that the main message here, after speaking to him, I called it the challenges of abundance, or in Hebrew, Etgar HaShefa. Etgar HaShefa. I'll try to explain. I think in a way, we are all used to really like historical stories about self-devotion, what we call mesirut nefesh in Hebrew, about Jews who weren't able to be Jews, basically, to live as Jews, and they all had to sacrifice serious, I think, sacrifice, self-devotion, hiding, from, I don't know, the KGB, the Nazis, pogroms, something that happens in the ghetto. Our history is based on, that the value of they will chase, they will hunt, they will not let you live as a free Jew, but you will keep, our heritage in a secret way with a lot of, it will a lot of energy, and it will be a secret. And then I met Rabbi Sacks, and he said, yeah, it's true, and it's really important to learn those chapters in our history, but it's not really relevant today. Today, the real challenge is wealth, abundance, the fact everything is available and accessible. 50, 70 years ago, nothing was available, nothing was accessible. Now we have it all. Now what? That was the main message for me. Every time I met him, we spoke about those issues. I remember a beautiful sentence he once said: the true challenges with which the children of Israel will need to cope will not be slavery, but freedom, will not be poverty, but abundance, not wandering, but the comforts of home. That's how he describes Sefer Dvarim, the last Chumash, leading us to Eretz Israel. And Sefer Dvarim, we can see how Moshe Rabbeinu explains, listen, it will be too comfortable, too cozy, too nice, too easy. You will be too rich. Sounds familiar? Everything will be great. You'll have a free democracy. You will have money. You'll have it all. Now what? I want to show you maybe two examples out of maybe before we'll continue to that meeting. That's his house in London, and this is Rabbi Andrew Shaw, the head of Mizrahi UK. Rabbi Shaw invited us to this panel. It was Erev Rosh Hashanah. He organized a whole journey in Manchester, Leeds, and London with Mizrahi UK. It was fascinating. I met really, I think we had 28 events. I thought I'm workaholic, but he's much, so much enthusiasm. He organized in 1 week 28 events with the British jury, and it was fascinating. It was great. And we also had that panel live to all over the world, Erev Rosh Hashanah. And we discussed that concept of, I would say, abundance. And Rabbi Sacks explained that today you don't have to struggle in order to have Arbaat Aminim, the 4 species. You don't have to do something. We have so many stories from Auschwitz, how to build a sukkah. You can build a sukkah. You know how many kosher restaurants we have here in Yerushalayim, London, New York, okay? It's not self-sacrifice to find kosher food. It's okay. But how do you bench? How do you bless? How do you treat the food you eat? How do you see your mitzvot? Do you have that spark in your eyes? Are you inspired? It's much harder today. You can do everything. How do you do it? This is the real question. And today with new media, it becomes really complicated because you don't have any excuses, no excuses anymore. Everything is available, as we said, and everything is accessible, but it's your decision to watch something on Netflix and YouTube or to learn the daily daf yomi. Okay, everything's available. Now what? Free choice becomes much more, I think, important today. And he discussed new media, the advantages and the challenges. Let's see 2 examples out of this fascinating conversation we had. And you can see his library background is just 1%, I think, out of the whole library. Okay, let's see.
So every single new information technology has dangers and great potential benefits. They're very disruptive. We are seeing right now a world being disrupted by smartphones and social media. You can be much ruder electronically than you can face to face. And if you wonder why politics has got so rude in Britain and America, it's the indirect consequence of smartphones. So when I saw the late Steve Jobs launch the iPad, I came in the next morning I was then chief rabbi, and I said, this is the face of the future. This is the game changer. Even though technologically it was just a great big iPhone, but nonetheless it was clear to me it was going to replace newspapers and magazines, and that was going to be big. So that's when we began to get interested in this stuff. And what really made me very interested indeed, and very anxious indeed, was the rise first of Al-Qaeda and then of ISIS, expert users in YouTube videos. We even traveled to Palo Alto to meet with the people in Google to find out what they were doing to combat ISIS videos. And they were telling us how difficult it is for them to combat it, because every time they take down a site, there are 30,000 other sites that immediately rise up. So that was when I committed myself to saying that if we have to combat the spread of evil on the internet by using the internet to spread good. So they're very, very big issues here. But your caution, Sivan, is absolutely correct, because I did the research on this, and virtually every single major developer of these technologies stopped their kids from using. Steve Jobs would not let his kids have an iPhone or an iPad. So
he knew something.
He knew.
And the next video we'll see, we continue and discuss Shabbat as something that can definitely help us out. You know, we are not supposed to be connected 24/7. We can definitely be connected 24/6, and for one day to be connected to something else. Let's see one more example, one more part out of this conversation. But how come Shabbat? I mean, because of this, really, we're so connected all the time, and everything becomes so superficial. And when I was a teenager, when we wanted to ask a philosophical question, we asked if a tree falls in the forest and nobody heard it, was there really a sound? Today you should ask, if two girls went to a mall and didn't upload a story, did they really went? I mean, did they really go there? I mean, it's so everything becomes so. How come Shabbat, which is, I think, the remedy, the cure, the solution? Sure. I mean, maybe it's our failure. I would expect Shabbat to become much more popular today. People to just disconnect. Do you see it? Maybe,
I see.
Maybe after the elections, I feel it becomes more and more.
Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post has just embraced Shabbat as part of her Strive campaign. She isn't Jewish at all. I mean, Ariana Stasinopoulos, as she was once, probably Greek Orthodox. So for her to embrace Shabbat is serious. Lots and lots of other people are doing so. They're talking about screen-free day. They're talking about digital detox. There is no question whatsoever that Shabbat is the perfect antidote. Gene Twenge of San Diego, of University of California, San Diego, who wrote the book iGen, which is the book on the current, what they call Gen Z in the States, the kids who grew up with this, with these social media, says that the best ration is an hour a day. But you use it much more than that, you will become very, very depressed. Because overexposure to social media, particularly for teenage girls, is very dangerous.
Teenage girls, specifically.
Teenage girls. In Britain, 14-year-old girls, 1/4 of them say they have self-harmed, they have done something dangerous to themselves because they were depressed because of social media. 1/4 of 14-year-old girls.
Wow.
So that's serious.
That's serious, definitely. I realized lately that when girls are asking for selfie, or boys, teenagers, they do something really interesting, and I think it's just as here in Israel. When they ask me to take a picture, so they come and I smile, and they do something very weird, with their face, the tongue, the cheek. It's like something they want to look strange. You noticed? I see. Yeah, some people know what I'm describing, what I'm talking about, and it's like they don't have enough like self-esteem to just smile the camera. It's too much for them to just have a normal smile and like this. No, because they're not, they don't want to look strange. So they make themselves, they do some strange things in order not to just be normal. Otherwise, people can laugh at them. Now, but nobody can. They explained it to me. I asked a few teenagers a few days ago. I asked them, why do you do it? They asked me, and I was like smiling. There were like 4 teenagers, and they were like, everything was so weird. And I was weird because I was the only one smiling. And asked them why, and they said nobody can laugh at us now because we laugh at ourselves. So we change our faces. Nobody can laugh at us now, and I think it's crazy. I mean, it changes the way people see themselves. It changes everything in our personality. I think it's where he discussed, I think, crucial questions here, and I also saw it as one of the messages we took with us to the United States, and we definitely were inspired, with this conversation and others when we decided to go under. I mean, we were in America for almost a year as World Mizrachi Shlichim to North America. That was the title. We lived in New York, but basically we were everywhere. I forgot to show you another percent. 2% are of 2% of the library. So yeah, definitely a huge, impressive library in London. But now let's move forward to our journey to the States. The Meir family, you see Rav Doron Perez here, Ben Gurion Airport. Before COVID, we were all really excited, and we are on our way to New York to be World Mizrachi Shlichim. And it definitely, those messages, I took them with me everywhere. Jewish communities and non-Jewish, from Jews and Jews that are completely unaffiliated, campuses, everywhere we spoke as scholars and residents, or everything we did. I think those messages I heard from him about impressive Judaism and inspiring Judaism, because in this era of wealth, we have everything. Judaism should be attractive. It should attract young people and older people, and we should have that spark. Our identity, our story, it's a keyword, a guiding word. You see it everywhere in his writings. The story, we are writing a story. Write your own chapter, the next chapter in our story. It's your responsibility. And really, wherever we went, we took those messages with us. Unfortunately, we had to come back earlier than we thought. We planned to stay there for 2 years. Everything was really successful and booked, for the second year. But you can see at the end of the journey, that was the empty in Ben Gurion Airport. They told us there was only one flight before Pesach, March 20, one flight on that day. It was our flight, an empty airplane. Newark, El Al, they stopped all the flights. El Al they canceled all the flights. So a United flight from Newark to Ben Gurion Airport, everything is locked. Silence. Imagine Ben Gurion Airport, it was like a movie. No planes, nothing. And we were there completely, you can't go, to visit your parents. You remember the first lockdown before Leil HaSeder, we were quarantined for 14 days. And that was the end of the shlichut in the United States. But we definitely continue our shlichut. And this beautiful tool called Zoom, this really, I can't believe it. Before COVID, I never heard, I think nobody heard about this tool called Zoom. And we use it a lot with small communities that are really far away. And anyway, just to conclude that message, everywhere we went, we continued that message of we are writing a story, and it's an inspiring story, etc. But then, as I said, everything changed. You can't say that everything is available and accessible if everything is closed. No schools, cinemas, hotels, flights, nothing. The world stopped. Now what? And the third message I want to mention during COVID, Judaism and crisis. And that was my third and last meeting with Rabbi Sacks. Basically, we did a few projects together. I'll describe maybe one of them, the craziest one. Okay, as I said, our house here was rented. Somebody rented it here in Yerushalayim, so we couldn't just throw them, kick them out. We had to find a new place to rent something. And the question was, okay, but how long are we going back to the States? It will disappear after Pesach, and we will continue our shlichut. That's what I thought. We have everything there. We rented a house, car, the kids, they're in the middle of the school year. Everything is waiting, and the communities are waiting for us. Yeah, great dreams. I was naive. And I remember the second day, we found a place in a tiny village called Bet Chilkiah. I guess nobody here knows where Bet Chilkiah is. Okay, Bet Chilkiah, it's in Nachal Sorek, near Gedera. Maybe that's the big city there, or Rehovot. Okay, we just found a place for 14 days. You have to be quarantined completely, and we had Leil HaSeder. In Hebrew we call it Leil HaSeder, Leil HaSeger. Seger, it's lockdown. So we had both. And we were really confused, jet lagged. I mean, and frightened. I mean, you can't, people were afraid to touch things. Remember that, So, and then I remember it was after Leil HaSeder, we had a beautiful Leil HaSeder, just us. And after the Seder night, Dan Sacker worked in Rabbi Sacks' office, still working there. He asked me, where are you in this world? Where are you? I said, Bet Chilkiah. He said, what, where, when? I said, never mind. What do you want? He said, okay, we think it's Zman Simchatenu. I said, yes, Zman Simchatenu, Chol HaMoed, right? Chol HaMoed Pesach, it's Zman Simchatenu. And he said, okay, so listen, Rabbi Sacks is in London, also we're stuck here. And Ishai Ribo from his house in Yerushalayim will join the two of you. We must have Zman Simchatenu. Rabbi Sacks, he wants to organize something for the Jewish world. It's Chol HaMoed, and we can't forget it's Pesach, Zman Cherutenu, Simchat Chol HaMoed. It's happiness, Simcha. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure I'm so happy, but let's do something, no problem. And so many, really, I mean, thousands of people became happy thanks to this beautiful idea of him. In the middle of really everything was like, and he said, no, it's Pesach, it's Chol HaMoed, let's have an event together. I'll want to see together just 3-4 minutes, Ishai Ribo, Rabbi Sacks, but before we watch the video, he always mentioned the fact we don't have a word in Hebrew for tragedy, tragedia. That's not Hebrew, tragedia. But we do have a word called hope, tikva. It's our national anthem, hatikva. Okay, hatikva. It's not by chance, it's our message to the world. No tragedies, but hopes. And in a way, he mentioned it also in this beautiful panel we had. And thousands of Jews were with us live from all over the world, and they watch it afterwards. I know people, when maybe a year later, people were texting, saying, I'm positive, I'm in my bed, lying in my bed. Thank you for those hours of happiness from that crazy Pesach. So maybe let's watch, and then we'll conclude and summarize everything. But let's watch just a beautiful example of dealing with a real crisis, maybe for the first time in our generation. Here.
ומה אתה רוצה שנבין מזה? איך מתרחבים ומתנתקים בכאב הזה? רוצה לחיות אותך ולא להיות לבד. ומה אתה רוצה שנבין מזה? ואיך נדע להתאחד בפירוד הזה? שמע ישראל השם אחד ושמו אחד. בין אדר לבין ניסן נפל פור זרע גורל, אומרים זה זמן שמסוגל לנצח המזל.
We're clapping. I'm sure many people, when they hear you right now, are joining us in Mechiot Kapayim. Beautiful. I want to ask you, Rabbi Sacks, the Ishay just sang, מה אתה רוצה שנבין מזה? What do you, Hashem, what do you want to understand? What is the divine message in that huge mess, in that balagan? מה אלוקים רוצה?
איך שמעתם קודם כל? שמעתם טוב?
אני שמעתי מצוין. How is the sound in London? Okay?
בסדר גמור.
Yeah.
So, listen, Sivan, I think, first of all, this is the power of music. You see, Yishai can ask that question. If I asked that question, nobody would listen to me. They'd say, what do you expect us to learn from this? Let's just get cured from it and get back to normal. And they would thereby have established, confirmed Hegel's remark that the one thing we learn from history is that we learn nothing from history. So, you know, people don't learn from history. So when Yishai sings, he's asking a very fundamental question. If we were to read the signal beneath the noise, what would it be saying? I think it would be saying three things. Number one, realize how vulnerable you are. You have thought yourself so great, unbelievable technology, unbelievable wealth. You are immune to anything. And I've shown you, you are immune, you are vulnerable to one tiny little microscopic virus, which has brought all humanity to its knees. Learn a little bit of anivut, of shiflut, of something or other, of humility, which we've been sadly lacking. Number two, understand that if a virus can travel from China all the way to the United States, then it's not just Kol Yisrael arevin zeh b'zeh, Kol b'nei Adam arevin zeh b'zeh. If we can all make each other fall ill, we should all be responsible for making one another well. We should learn from this the interconnectedness, the Brit b'nei Noach, that Kol b'nei Adam arevin zeh b'zeh. And finally, thirdly, you will see that the good thing that came out of this is that suddenly everyone wants to help everyone else. All of a sudden, what happened, Sivan? Did they go out on the Mirpeset at 8:30 at night? Yes?
Of course, Manishtana, of course.
All of a sudden, Halayla Azeh, Hashana Azov, all Yerushalayim is like one family. And we are there to help one another so that nobody should feel alone. In this, you know, what did Yishai sing? And Yerushalayim showed So reach out and help one another. I think those are the three things.
Wow, unmute. Yeah, for an Israeli, it's really hard, 10 seconds without speaking. So what we understand here, I think, and this is our challenge in those 2 years together, is it was really nice describing the world as an open, democratic, liberal, free place. But today we're challenging things nobody thought with, you know, a disease, a pandemic. Who thought it will be a challenge once again? We thought we're much stronger, you know. It belongs to our history, and now it becomes our present. And in a way, it's Judaism is facing a new challenge. If we can't daven and pray together, if we can't be together, if we can't have big Shabbatot, Shabbatonim and events and weddings or have their funerals. And I think we can definitely learn from him how to deal with a crisis, how to see each individual, just like he said here. During this year, I heard a beautiful story from Rabbi Zalman Wyszecki from Switzerland. He said, Rabbi Sacks once said that he lectured, hundreds of times a year, met thousands of people every month, and spoke constantly with people of every type throughout the world. Which question, okay, do you suppose, which question was he asked most often? Okay, what is the question people ask him the most? Maybe I'll ask you. We have almost 200 people here. What is the most popular question Rabbi Sacks heard? Think about it for a minute. He always said, okay, when he spoke to people, okay, yeah, beautiful. I see somebody here in the stand knows this story, because he said, nobody asked me about the 10 Commandments, about Torah's perspective on science, about Judaism in the modern era, about halacha and new media. No, the question was, Rabbi Sacks, do you remember me? And it's really deep, he said. People do not come to me with their intellectual questions. They want me to remember them. Rabbi Sacks, do you remember me? And he said, in my eyes, okay, this little story is phenomenal, because it seems sometimes, that we need knowledge. Our top priority is to gain more knowledge, okay? And we listen to so many countless lectures, and no. Ultimately, at the end of the day, all we truly need is that another human being will see us, will recognize us, and will remember us, okay? That will matter, and to feel that importance to someone else. I think it's an important story, because you know why? Because when I told this story for the first time, Rabbi Sacks' brother Ellen wrote to me, and I quote, and I quote. Wait a minute, here, Rabbi Ellen Sacks, not a rabbi. I think he's a lawyer. He lives here in Yerushalayim. I just met him and his wife lately. And and Ellen wrote, after I published this story, I took it on the first Yard site. I published this story in Hebrew, in English, and more languages. And Ellen wrote, it's a beautiful story, Sivan. One that I heard from my brother on several occasions, but you can extrapolate from this. One of the most beautiful commentaries that my brother wrote in Covenant and Conversation was entitled The Priestly Blessing on Parashat Naso. It's about Birkat Kohanim, okay? The way they bless us. And it's on the idea of God remembering us and noticing us, each individually among in the crowd. Hashem, do you remember me? This is the question we ask him. It's not the question we ask Rabbi Sacks. We ask each individual we meet, Ben Adam LeMakom and Ben Adam LeChavero. Hashem, do you remember me? Do you care? It's not how the Torah I learn. It's the intimate, the connection, the relationship I have with you. Do you remember me? And yes, Birkat Kohanim tells us, yeah, I remember you. You personally, ata. And I think this is maybe the main message, especially in those 2 hard years we had. I hope it's the end. I was positive next week. Baruch Hashem. I thought I forgot my English. Really, I'm quite tired. I just, Baruch Hashem, last Sunday, I was the first time I spoke after 5 or 6 days that weren't so easy. And in Hebrew, I remember I was quite afraid, scared to speak in Hebrew for the first time, because you feel a little bit weird. People here know what I'm talking about. I guess the majority of the people here were also positive, and it was, Baruch Hashem, it was great in Hebrew. It took me a few days to sometimes you forget, and now Baruch Hashem in Hebrew I feel great. It's the first lecture in English after COVID, and sometimes I forget the sentences or phrases, or I guess I had a few mistakes. It's the first lecture. I hope it will also improve. It takes time. Give yourself some time to rest and don't panic, because I think Bezrat Hashem it will. I think it will improve. But thank you very much. I want to maybe conclude this journey we had together, 3 meetings, 3 messages from Rabbi Sacks. We started by describing the fact Judaism is impressive, and for me, as someone who saw it as something primitive, how shocking it was to read his books, intellectual books. Afterwards, personal meetings, interviews, panels, describing. I think the keyword here is inspiration. Okay, we can't do it things as technical things like a list of orders. It's much more than that. And today, Judaism must be attractive. We must feel it's our mutual story, and we write our own chapter in this magnificent book called Jewish History. But unfortunately, the third message was Rabbi Sacks passed away, unfortunately, in the middle of that pandemic, and we didn't have the opportunity to be there, funeral or Shloshim and the Levi during the Shiva. But we have the opportunity to be here now for him, and we have so many events, and it's exciting to see so many Zoom meetings and so many really communities. They want to remember, they want to learn. And I think the last message is, do you remember me? And maybe COVID teaches that's what those years they taught us, to look at it in each individual and to remember, and really how important it is. We now know how important it is after those hard 2 years. And maybe my last message is, I don't think we should learn about Rabbi Sacks. We should, in a way, be Rabbi Sacks. This is his real shlichut. The Lubavitcher Rebbe told him, okay, that's how he described the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He does not want people to be followers, Hasidim. He wants them to be leaders. I don't think he wants us to be followers, to be Hasidim. He wants us to be leaders, to care about Jewish education, to fight anti-Semitism and assimilation, and to care for the Jewish state and Jewish values everywhere. And I think that was his life mission, and Bezrat Hashem, it can also be ours. Toda Rabba. Thank you very much once again, Mizrahi people, HaChevra LeCheker HaMikra. Thank you, Daniel Cohen. Thank you. I just wanted, people ask me for the link. If you want to get my materials in English, this is the link for free. Every morning, we publish here from Yerushalayim a new message about the Parsha, the Chagim. Here, 1 minute. Now you have it. You can see that on the chat. So, Toda Rabba, thank you for all the messages in Hebrew, in English, the private messages, those who everyone see. Toda Rabba, thank you very much, and see you b'smachot, b'sorot tovot b'Yerushalayim. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sivan. Thank you everyone for joining us. Around 200 people joined this lecture at various parts, and I know many hundreds more will be joining when it's posted on Facebook and the different social media sites. Thank you for these 3 encounters, and for the great insights into the personality and teachings of Rabbi Sacks, and really most thought-provoking and insightful. And thank you everyone for joining us. Please join us next week when we continue with the 3rd part of the series. Rabbi Dr. Harvey Belovsky, in the beautiful English accent, and a leading rabbi in London, will be speaking to us, and we hope to continue to grow this series from strength to strength. Lilu Nishmat Rabbi Sacks, and to continue, as Sivan said, not just learning about him, but to emulate him and emulate his teachings. Thank you very much again, Yisrael, Crystal from HaChevra LeCheker HaMikra, Sivan, Rabbi Tarragon, Rabbi Mervis, and Daniel Cohen, and all at Mizrahi. Thank you very much, and have a Shavua Tov. Thank you, Sivan.
Shalom, shalom. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.